Hey, good evening. This is your boy DJ 10 right here on Tanatudes. Tonight, I want to discuss the policing of black Americans, and I want to discuss the racial harassment that these white people are doing to us. You know, it's been a long road, and it seems like since Trump is in office, it's gotten worse. You know, these white people really feeling themselves. You know, back when the rap group Public Enemy famously stated that 911 is a joke, that was back in 1990. These days, 911 is dead serious. Anyone in the United States can dial those three numbers and summon people with guns and handcuffs to participate in their anti-black paranoia. It's racial harassment sponsored by the government and supported by tax dollars. When one calls 911 in any city, the first question the dispatcher asks is, "What is your emergency?" Now I wonder how the white people recently in the news for calling the police on black folks would have answered that question. Let's see. 2 men sitting at Starbucks, 4 women golfing slowly, graduate student napping, man moving into apartment, women moving luggage out of a house. The people who call the police are not the main problem, you see. Of course, those people are, to use an old-fashioned word, prejudice. It is difficult to imagine them being made anxious by white people going about the business of their everyday lives. But this kind of racism for black people is, in fact, every day. You see, this does not mean that it is acceptable. Everyday racism is aggravating as hell, health draining as hell, and for its survivors, labor intensive as hell. Everyday racism requires a performance when a black person navigates white spaces. I'm calling it white spaces because these fucking people feel entitled. White people feel entitled, and it calls it their white space. You ever notice if you're the only black person on the elevator, they go about their business of talking and kiki, laughing and kiki, and you feel like you are this ant. So you tend to just stand there and look up at the numbers on the elevator. Nobody bothers to talk to you. Nobody bothers to say, "Hey, how you doing?" But they have their own little group of people. And then if it may be just one white person left on the elevator and you're the only black person left on the elevator, they stand there and stare at their cell phone. That's the most aggravating shit to me, and it's just so aggravating to me. You know, then you conspicuously display your work ID. You know, you look down on the elevator. You know, you do a little whistling. You know, the people who call the police can feel a black person with a productive rage or a corrosive kind of hate. You know, in my ideal world, when people call the police on black people for no good fucking god doggone reason, they would be taken to a public place and beaten with sticks. Now, I just said that's in my world. In my world, you would get the shit beat out you every time you call 911 for some bullshit. You would be taken to a park. I would call that the beat down park. This is the beat down park, and they're going to take you and they're going to throw some sticks at your dumb ass. By black people, of course. Because, see, these people are what I call spirit murderers, but they still are not the main problem. The main problem is the response of the state. Think about it. We'll send a squad over right away. The caller has offered a short pitch for a white supremacist person, and now the dispatcher green lights it. Now she sends a crew over to set identified by the caller, and the spectacle begins. Black people are forced by armed officers of the government to justify their presence. They have the burden of proof. The person who called the police is assumed to be correct. See, that's why they be cheesing and grinning like some damn monkey idiots. See, now that the black gets to make her case or his case at all is an incremental evolution in justice from the antebellum South, where the white people could and did make all manner of false accusations. Y'all know this is right. Made all manner of false accusations against blacks, but black people were not allowed to be witnesses against whites in any official proceeding. So you could see some white people doing some standoffish crazy shit, and you could not go to court and say, well, yeah, I saw that happen. Look at here. In recent cases, black people have offered excuses like golfing, napping, moving. And for two African American men at the Starbucks in Philadelphia waiting for a friend is deemed insufficient. The men were placed in handcuffs and taken to jail. The Philadelphia police chief, Richard Ross, said the police did absolutely nothing wrong. But later, when the arrest created a national firestorm, the chief apologized. And then he said that as a black man, he should have known better. Man, go sit your monkey ass down somewhere. Now, what I want to say is that usually the police know better, and it does not matter. Now, Darren Martin had the police called on him when he was just moving into a new apartment. That was in Manhattan. A neighbor claimed he was breaking down the door and had a weapon. Martin had the presence of mind and courage to live stream the police response. Now, the 6 NYPD officers who reported to the scene, that's right, I said 6, discovered a young black man moving stuff to a 5th floor walk up. Still, the cops put Martin through the procedure. Interrogate the man, forcing him to show his ID. Now, when Martin protested, the officers stood there with that stupid ass look on their faces. You know, that look on their face where they say, well, we're just doing our jobs. You know, that expression on their face, we're doing our jobs. You have to show us your ID, or we're going to handcuff you, and we're going to take you to jail. Now, the sad thing is that they are exactly right. Enforcing a racialized law and order in an important function of police work is the 21st century. See, in my book, Chokehold, I suggest that the problem is not bad apple cops. The problem is the system is working the way it's supposed to. The U.S. criminal legal process is all about keeping people, especially black people, especially black men, in their place. Even when trespassing white space is not an arrestable offense, it can occasion a fraught encounter. You see, the Harvard scholar Henry Louis Gates Jr. wrote, black men swap their experiences of police encounters like war stories, and there are few who don't have more than one story to tell. The crazy thing is that Gates wrote this in 1995, long before he was arrested by the Cambridge police, after a neighbor called the police to report he was trespassing on his own front porch. I have more stories than that I can count. The time the police followed me one time when I was walking in my neighborhood and told me to go in my house to prove that I lived there. I was in Los Angeles at that time. I was young. I was a student at USC. Asked me where my ID was. And back then, I was like, you don't need to see my ID. I'm where I'm supposed to be. Now, I didn't get judged because they thought I was black. I got judged because they thought I was Mexican. Cops said cholo. I said cholo? What is a cholo? But I had the sense of mind to do what I was supposed to do because I knew how the cops was in Los Angeles. I knew what they were all about. I knew that if I didn't comply to what they were asking me to do, that I was going to be somewhere beat up, arrested, or killed. You know, the structure that allows this cannot stand. I make that claim hopefully as when Martin Luther King Jr. said the arc of the moral universe curves toward justice. I also make that claim descriptively as when King said no lie can live forever. In Chokehold, I suggest ways of improving relations between the police and communities of color, including having more women and college educated cops who the data suggests respond to these kind of situations more effectively. Ultimately, the whole culture of policing must be transformed from the warrior mentality that Barack Obama described to one of guardians. It turned out that back in 1990, when Public Enemy described 911 as a joke, they weren't even talking about the police. Their complaint was that paramedics didn't show up when they were summoned to the hood. Those were the first responders who the community would have welcomed. Long before the viral videos of police abuse, many black folks had already given up on the cops. That's what 911 is a joke was all about. We have to take the time out to understand that we are a strong force of people. And until we start believing in ourselves, this whole white folks mentality, this whole white space mentality with these people calling the cops. Let me tell you something. I wish a mother I can't even get it out of my mouth because I wish a motherfucker would. I wish you would. I promise you it's going to be a whole new ball game. I'd ask everybody to read the book called Chokehold. Paul Butler is a law professor at Georgetown University and an MSNBC legal analyst. He is the former federal prosecutor and the author of Chokehold, Policing Black Men. It is a book that everyone needs to read. If you don't ever read another book in your life, you need to pick that book up and read it. It will help you so much to understand that it's not the white people that's the problem. It is how the government is allowing the response. Because when them people call 911, it is a damn joke when they say, oh, you know, that lady golfing too slow. That boy touched my ass. And you gonna run out a police officer? That's why the police officers don't make that much money, by the way. And I hope a police officer is listening to this. That's why y'all asses don't make that much money. That's why y'all asses make Burger King money, because y'all out there trying to arrest a little 9-year-old boy. Y'all out there trying to arrest somebody for slow golfing. Y'all out there arresting black people for being in the pool. When there's real shit that's going on in this world, like people getting killed every single day in the black neighborhood. When there's unsolved crime in the black neighborhood, unsolved crimes from years and years and years in the black neighborhood. I know somebody right now in the black neighborhood whose son was disappeared 40 years ago, and they haven't found that poor child yet. It's been 40 years since that child has been missing. 40 years. That child will be 40 years old. The child disappeared at 4 years old. You got whole people missing, whole cars missing. But y'all got the time to come up and run up hollering about, somebody stole a Snicker bar. Well, I tell you one thing, if y'all close these raggedy ass corner stores down and send them fucking people back to where they came from, Mali, Pali, Korea, North Korea, send their asses back where they came from, half the problems will be gone. Because then y'all won't be selling them dollar ass cigarettes and 99-cent ass cold malt liquors. That's one of the biggest problems. That will solve half your problems. They won't have no place to hang out on the corners and start all the crime. So while y'all got time for 911, while the white folks got time to call 911 about some bullshit, they would have something more productive to do. And then if y'all set some laws as to and finding these people about calling 911 for some bullshit, they wouldn't call 911 anymore. If you make them do some sweeping and some cleaning and some shit in a black neighborhood, they would never call 911 again. So no, they're not the problem. The government is the problem. And until y'all got that orange ass man up in office, it's gonna continue to be the problem because he is entertaining that foolishness. Man, I got to get up out of here. I got to go because y'all know me. I get on my trail and I continue on that same trail because I don't scare very easily. Because again, Tanner Tubes pays to keep his own lights on. There's a DJ Tan. I'm gonna see you on Thursday for another rant.